From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight as we preview the Broncos versus Chiefs matchup coming up this Sunday. And to help me do that, great Steve Atwater in the studio. What up, At?
What up, Evans, man? Great to be here with you, my man.
It's good to have you here. And I know for a lot of Broncos fans at 3-9, they're looking at this game and saying, well, how's this going to look, really, right? I mean, the Broncos obviously have not been able to beat the Chiefs in the last 13 matchups. It's been an issue specifically once Patrick Mahomes came into the league. But we're going to sort of start here with what the Chiefs do well, and we'll sort of work backwards into how the Broncos might be able to hang in this one and maybe steal something there in the fourth quarter. And unfortunately, I wish we could have a more equal pairing conversation, but I don't think we're quite there. So we'll start with the Chiefs, who, of course, offensively, they're the number one offense in the NFL for a reason, over 29 points per game. And again, by comparison, the Broncos scoring 13.8 points per game on offense. So whatever conversation we're going to start with when it comes to this team, the offense has got to score more points because the Chiefs are going to score at least 24 points.
We can't say that against our defense now. That's disrespectful, Ryan Edwards.
Oh, okay. Give me a reason why the Kansas City Chiefs will not score over 20 points.
Well, I'm not saying that they won't, but I'm just saying you can't just assume that because they've had success against other teams and just about everybody they put points up against, they're going to do that against us, man. The defense has been playing really solid. Had a couple of snafus last couple of games, but for the most part, I still have confidence that the defense can go out there and be effective. Now,
you're right. Kansas City only really needs to score 15. That's right.
Yeah, but if they score, if they score, yeah. Well, what was the stat? 18 points, 19 points.
Yeah,
and
they'd have like 9 wins on the season. Yeah. If the Broncos had 18 points per game in regulation, they'd have 9 wins on the season.
Yeah, that's not good.
Might even be 10 now. I don't know, but yeah, at least 9 wins.
Yeah, but who knows? Hopefully, this is the week. I'm always trying to be optimistic about it. Now, obviously, I have the other the side of it where it hasn't been good, but you know, I think in sports, on any given Sunday, anything can happen, and hopefully the guys are still into it, still into watching film, into getting better, because guess what? Everybody's watching. You know, it's not like they're going to be out there in the field and their futures aren't dependent on what they do out there. Every football player, when you're in games, especially when things are going bad, people are looking for a reason to get rid of you. And I listen to Deion. He say, if you don't get terminated, you get elevated.
It's true.
So you got to take that same mentality. You don't want to get terminated. You want to get elevated.
I love that. And that's a little bit of the approach here. And certainly as you're playing out the remaining games of the season, there's going to be a focus. The tape on all these players, the ones that are going to be here, the ones that are potentially looking for new jobs, that's going to be still a very important facet of maintaining a level of intensity, of maintaining a no quit in the locker room. So I'm with you on that. But you agree, at least conceptually, right? The Broncos offense they need to pull their fair share in this one. There's just no way you can assume that the Broncos defense can hold the Kansas City Chiefs around 14 points per game. That's not realistic.
Now, obviously in the locker room, the defensive guys, they'll say they got to do whatever they got to do to win. And, you know, technically speaking, that's true. But, you know, you got to have some help. And unfortunately, that hasn't been there for a majority of the season. And, that's why we are where we are. And but again, every week something can change, something can click. And, you know, we go out there and put up 27 points and defense does their thing and we can have a win. It's certainly possible. I've seen crazier things happen. Unfortunately, I haven't seen too much of that this year out of our offense. But it would be a pleasant surprise for Broncos country, for us, for everybody, if we can go out there and just put one really good offensive game together.
Well, the one thing you can say about the Kansas City Chiefs defense is they do struggle in the red zone. They're 30th in the NFL in the red zone. Teams convert around 66% when they get there. So Broncos, who didn't make the red zone against Baltimore, if they can find a way to put some drives together. And we saw a couple of nice moments with Greg Dulcich, with Jerry Jeudy. I thought there were some nice moments in the run game and the pass game combined. I thought they had some nice balance in this game against the Ravens. you may have to turn it up a little bit, especially if things start to get a little lopsided and you need to pass the ball. But I'd say at least on something that might work to their advantage is the Kansas City Chiefs are one of those teams you can pass against. And once you get to the red zone, you do find some success.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. Because when I see,
especially for the team that's ranked last in the NFL in the red zone, yes,
yeah, and just the way the type of ball that they play. They got guys up front. They got Chris Jones up front, Frank Clark, George Karlaftis. They got the linebacker
Nick Bolton,
Willie Gay, and then in the secondary, Juan Thornhill, L'Jarius Sneed. Those guys. They're some ballers.
Yeah.
And they show up to play. And when they show up, they're trying to embarrass you. And so it's not going to be a cakewalk, even if we get into the red zone. It's not going to be easy to get the ball in there. So we got to have a different mentality. We got to have a mentality of, hey, I'm just leaving it out there on the line. I'm not worried about. Now, obviously, you got to worry about executing properly, but you can't worry about making a ton of mistakes. You just got to go out there and ball out.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what it is. And you're right. You're going to have to play without the stress and the added weight of all of those losses to Kansas City or even just the reputation of Kansas City. I think sometimes you get into that, the reputation of Mahomes, the reputation of Kansas City. I like what Cincinnati was able to do this last week. Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, that's 3 straight wins they've had against Kansas City Chiefs, including the postseason. They don't seem phased whatsoever. Kansas City Chiefs, they get up on them. It doesn't worry them whatsoever. And you got to have a little bit of that mentality of, hey, the Chiefs are going to score some points. You need to just sort of stay the course and find a way to get back out there and give yourself opportunities at more points. You can't be worried about, they just scored a touchdown. They're up on us now. This game is basically over because it's Kansas City.
Yeah, but along with that, the offense got to score points.
They do.
That's it. And I think that if our offense had done that some in the past, the defense probably would have a little bit more confidence that they would. But right now, I can imagine that if a team gets up, the defense probably feels like, man, we got to score if we're going to win. And that's a tough position to be in because you obviously rooting for your teammates, your offensive teammates, but they just haven't been able to get over the hump, man. And but again, hey, any given Sunday, man, anything can happen. So I'm hoping that we can go out there and do something special.
Well, and the Chiefs, I think some of the matchups as well, they played a little ball control against the Broncos. They haven't really thrown out the full arsenal, gone out there, slinging it all over the field. They played ball control because they didn't believe the Broncos offense was going to be able to go toe-to-toe with them anyways. And why go out there forcing the issue and maybe forcing opportunities for the Broncos defense to pick you off or to get turnovers? No, instead you play ball control and you play careful. And you can do that because you don't believe the Broncos offense. So again, it comes down to the narrative about your team. The narrative of what you are right now is that you're a team that scores under 14 points per game. Mm-hmm. And you watch this team over and over and over again. Even when they have some flashes of continuity, it's still not resulting in points. It's still not resulting in touchdowns. So you have to change that, and you have to make Kansas City respect you.
How do you do that?
Got to close out drives. You got to get points. You got to be explosive. I mean, it's a combination of things. And guess what? You have to do all that with backups for the most part, right? Yeah. You're playing with Brandon Johnson and Jalen Virgil out there, Kendall Hinton. Again, I like all those guys. I think developmentally, there's a lot of interesting things there. But at the same time, you're in this season right now with a bunch of young players that haven't logged a lot of NFL reps, and you're going to have to find a way to do all those things with those young players.
It's going to be tough because, the Chiefs, they've had a few injuries at some key positions, the running back position, the wide receiver position. But guess what? They keep on bringing somebody else in, and they have the system down. And they've been in that system for so long.
That's right.
To where you can just plug somebody in. And that's what I'm hoping that we can get to at some point. We've had a lot of turnover with coaches and that. I do not want to see that. I'm hoping that we stick with Coach Hackett and he continues to build. It's been a rough year injury-wise, people getting on the same page. But, at some point we got to stop the coaching carousel and get some stability in here the way the Chiefs have.
Well, I don't know what decision they'll ultimately go with in the offseason, and certainly that'll be something we get a chance to talk about. But I will say this, as somebody that's in the locker room often, you are as well, Coach Hackett has not lost that team. Those guys are still playing hard for each other. They're still playing hard for the coach. They do like Nathaniel Hackett quite a bit. So for all of the hot takes that are flying around out there in the media or the fan base, That's just not something that exists right now. Though those guys still believe in each other. It's remarkable to a certain extent, considering how many frustrating moments they've had this year.
Yeah, I've been super frustrated. Even the last
that's
one,
what it is.
The last one was, with the Ravens. You up the whole game, and then right there at the end. And I got to say, man, I didn't believe. I hate that because this is my team. I want to believe, but as we were getting close, I was like, man, I had the feeling that something bad was going to happen, and it did. The Ravens went down there and scored and went up, and then we had very little time left, and we just couldn't make. We got a chance for a kick, but it was super long.
Yeah.
But
you got to learn how to win. You got to learn how to close, and you have to have a belief. Both sides, all three phases, have to have a belief in what they're doing out there.
Yeah, they got to have the belief, but then they also got to execute. We got to find a way. If they go down there and score offense, we got to find a way to drive the ball down the field. Somebody's got to get open. Somebody's got to make a catch. We saw when Jacksonville played with that Baltimore, and Jacksonville came back and drove down the field. But guess what? The quarterback made great passes, and the receivers came up and made big plays. It wasn't something where in clutch situations the playmakers weren't making the plays. They stood up and made the plays, and that's what we got to do. We got to have our playmakers clutch situations. We got to come through, man, and we got to get something to for our fans and for our team, for the coaches and owners, for everybody to feel like, hey, man, we got a chance. We got some good players. A lot of things didn't go our way this year, especially with the injuries. But hey, we need some hope, man, for the rest of this season and for the upcoming season.
Well, the Kansas City game is one that we circled on the calendar before the season even started, and we said it's
gonna be a tough one. It's gonna be a tough one, regardless.
It's gonna be a tough one. This is the team that you're looking up in the division. This is the team you're looking up into the AFC, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this video might even be wondering, like, okay, well, wait a minute, this is an impossibility. We watch games like this in the NFL every single week. Surprises happen, and they certainly happen. Jacksonville beating the Baltimore Ravens, as you just pointed out, was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people. Now, the beauty for them, now Etienne, I think, had left that game early, but they still had the full complement of wide receivers out there. So he had all his starting wide receivers out there, had a lot of his offensive line there for Trevor Lawrence. But there's something to that. And I think coaching, again, this is where you have Doug Peterson, who's been there and done that. You have Andy Reid, who knows how to coach as well. Yeah. I think Nathaniel Hackett is learning on the job. And certainly we don't really know what the future holds for anybody really in this league. But the last thing that I wanted to point out is you said it, every single week is a new opportunity to change a narrative, change minds. And the Broncos are going to be home. They got the home crowd. You got the number one AFC West team in the Kansas City Chiefs. This is one of those moments. Like, what are you made of? What do you want to show your fans that have been really frustrated, that have stuck by you this entire time? What do you want to show them? And I'm hoping that there's a resounding intensity from this team to really show out in this game.
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to see the guys come out there and just leave it all out there. Don't think too much. You're going to get all the thinking done during the week of practice. Once you get out there on Sunday, just let it all go, man. Just let it go and just play like you've never played before, man. And good things can happen.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Ryan.
Appreciate it. For Steve Atwater, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.
Denver's going to win it. You can stand up and salute in Denver, and you got the world champions that live in your town.